and Fables. Megan here.
Deidre.
Today we are talking about exes and breakups. So, tough subject for most, but kind of our breakups, how we got through them. Hopefully this helps other people get through their breakups. And also kind of topics on exes. Can you be friends with your ex? Can men and women be friends in general? So we're going to cover all that today. So breakups. So you said you had some tough breakup stories.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm a bad breaker-upper.
You breaking up with people?
Well, no,
Or
I think
people breaking up with you.
Yeah, I think it's worse when
to be broken up with, or be the person who breaks up with someone.
I don't know. For me, I think it was like super easy to break up with people. I think it was like almost fun sometimes. No, I mean, some people
This is fun for me.
I just really
crush you like a bug.
I think sometimes, well, definitely being broken up with would be the worst of the two, for sure. But I had I've had breakups where people just, I think the worst kind of breakup is when someone breaks up with you and then they don't leave the room.
Ooh, and then do you have to like stay there with
them?
them?
They like watch you, metaphorically. They like break up with you and then they're in the room, watching you like writhe around in the pit of your own disgust. And they're like, yeah, and they're smiling and like going on with their life, and they're like, you really need to move on, and or something, and you're just kind of like going through your agony like under watch because they want to be your friend.
In the moment though, like I don't feel like, I've only been broken up with in a long-term relationship once, and it was not, I mean, we lived together, so there was no choice, like,
yeah.
So he basically told me one day we got into a fight about something stupid, and he just looked at me and was like, I'm unhappy. And we'd been together 2 years, and I'm like, what do you mean you're unhappy? I thought, like, we're on our way to get married and have kids. Like, what do you mean? And he just, in hindsight, he and I talked here and there. He was like, I just never was able to tell you and communicate what I was unhappy about. So when we lived together, I mean, yeah, I didn't stay in the same room with him. I went in the bedroom and sobbed and cried all night, and he had to hear it as he slept on the couch. That's not my fucking fault. It's his fault.
That's sad.
But I will say the worst is when I've broken up with somebody, and I watched, knowing that I did that to somebody else hurt me more.
Yeah.
Like, I think I've been very hurt, but I'd rather handle my own pain than bring pain upon somebody that I can't fix, because it's just like, I just don't want to be with you. I remember I broke up with a guy, and he showed up to my condo like 2 weeks later. He'd lost like 15 pounds. He hadn't eaten, and he wanted to get back together. He was like, I was about to buy you a ring, and I'm just like, it's too late. No
one loves you as much as in the moment when you don't want them. Like, they then want to be the person you wanted. They want to show up with all the emotions and the feelings and the things.
What is that? I think that's the same thing with dating, though, right? You want the one you can't have, right? You want that chase, and then we talked about, like, when you get it, sometimes you're let down, like, no.
Maybe we have an unrealistic expectation of people.
I definitely have been in spots where I've cared for somebody very much, and they have basically pushed me away. And then when I finally put my foot down and said, you know what, I'm no longer talking to you, I don't want you in my life, that's when they're like, but no, like, if it's on your terms, I want it to be on my terms. And I think people are like that a lot. Most people want things on their terms, right? And end on their terms. And
I think people are lazy emotionally. And I think that they kind of like go through the relationship sort of like complacent. That, well, in the beginning, they kind of like charm you and give you like, you see glimmers of what your life could be and like beautiful moments, but then they kind of like, they never really fulfill themselves, and they just kind of slowly taper into this like routine of monotony and complacency. And then when you, and this isn't every scenario, but and when you decide like, I'm good with this, then they're like, I'll try harder, I'll be better, they have a list of things that they'll start doing, and they make a lot of promises, and maybe they'll do it for a short period of time. But in reality, they should just be good to you and not push you to the point where you threaten to leave. And then there is a theory, like a medical theory, that people are addicted to the makeup part after the fight, which is basically like adrenaline.
Like makeup sex. That's why they say makeup sex. Yeah, the guy I last dated, I remember him saying, well, makeup sex is the best.
I don't want to have makeup sex.
So that's the thing, that you're, and maybe was an indication that he liked drama.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, they like the fight.
Fucking nut job.
They like the fight. They get addicted to the fight,
Mm-hmm.
the bubble, and then the chill, which is basically the come down off of the drug.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see. Yeah, because like you said, it's anything with adrenaline, right? That rush, and then but I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I don't want to be fighting to have makeup sex. I just want to have good sex.
I just want to be
because
good sex all the time.
Yeah, good sex all the time.
Pull my hair.
Yeah, right. Pull my hair and tell me you love me.
Breakups. I've broken up with people and it been like I've cut off all contact.
Okay.
And that's probably the best way to do it.
I do think there needs to be a clean cut, right? In the guy who broke up with me, I think it was actually, I think, when I went to one of your events.
I was trying to look up which one that was.
Super drunk, I think. Or maybe it was our company Christmas party when we worked together.
Oh.
But I drank way too much, like, got home. It was like a month and a half after we broke up, like, sobbed crying in the bathroom, throwing up, and messaged him, like, I just love you so much. Like, do you love me? And he's like, of course I love you. He's like, but I just don't see it working out. So I just, like, I think I passed out, like, next to the toilet.
Drunk,
and that's how I deal with breakups. Alcohol and throwing up.
I think I always
don't mic her up a lot. We talked about that.
Yeah.
My
throwing up. If I'm throwing up, it's been a good night, I guess.
Yeah, it's not so good the next day, but I could barely move. It was after our company Christmas party because my friends had to bring me food because I could not move from the couch because I was so hungover. It
was in St. Pete.
So I think it was open bar. Yeah, it was at, I don't know where it was at. But yeah, I need closure. So if I don't get closure, I will seek it somehow or try to get it because it's important to me. So when the guy that broke up with me, he gave me the closure. I am not happy. I don't want to continue. Okay. So I had to, in my brain, rationally come to terms with he was unhappy. And if I truly love him, which I did at the time, I want him to be happy, right? I think that is, when you really love somebody, you want the best for them regardless if they're with you or not. So, and I had to, I think what really helped me, because I'm a fairly optimistic person, so knowing that one day I will meet somebody who wants to be with me.
Yeah. Right?
So I held on to that hope. You know what? It didn't work out. That's okay. We had a good 2 years together, and now there's a next phase in my life coming up.
I remember going through a breakup at one point similarly, and I was like excited because I was like, as heartless as that sounds, I knew that relationship was not a good relationship. And so when I decided, I was like, I'm done. I was like, I wasn't sad or mourning it. I knew that it wasn't the right place for me and that I needed to move forward and better things were going to happen. Not just relationship-wise, but just in my existence.
How long were you together?
About a year.
Okay.
About a year, and it was like completely contentious and dramatic the whole time, which is, I don't like drama in my relationships because I'm very dramatic in my body. Like I live in a very emotional place and I'm always dealing with like some kind of like existential torment. So like I can't have a lot of drama in my world and relationships. It's just too much.
Yeah.
I can't deal with other people's problems as much as I don't want to, honestly. I mean, I do. That sounds heartless. Like, I don't want to deal with your shit, but, like, people should also be dealing with their shit while I'm dealing with my shit. Instead of putting it on me and making it to be my fault. Like, that's gaslighting when people are, like, pushing you to say that you're the worst thing in the world. You're the reason I'm this way. So I cut that relationship off. There was nothing to talk about. So I didn't really, I don't know. Maybe it's, like, heartless. I kind of just decide to walk away and then I'm done.
No, I'm definitely, once I get to that point, I am done. But it's hard for me to get to the point when I don't have closure, which we talked about in the ghosting episode. The guy that I was recently dating, I didn't get any closure. He basically just stopped responding to me. I had no idea why. I didn't, you know what I mean? And we kind of picked back up and started communicating again, and then he kind of did the same thing to me. So it's like,
what do you think?
When am I going to fucking figure it out that I need to cut, you know what I mean? But it's going to take some time. I don't know why he deeply impacted me.
What is closure for you, though? Is it like an agreement?
No, it's knowing the reason.
The reason?
I need to know why.
What if they don't know why?
Well, then that's what I think that's a reason, though.
Yeah.
That could be like, you know what? I'm really confused about what I want. I know you want marriage and kids. I don't know if that's something I want at this point. I already, like, I'm talking about this particular guy. I already have 2 kids.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he decided that wasn't for him, you know? But it's like, I would have liked to have known that. So, and
like, an
maybe one day I'll get
understanding,
my closure. But
so you can
I can
understand.
process it, right? Because I'm a rational thinking person. So if somebody says something to me that I can rationalize and be like, that makes sense, got it. And I'm good. Then I'm going to be sad about it because I wanted those things with that person, but at least I can be like, okay, or, hey, I met someone else and I wasn't expecting it. You know, it's not like I was looking for it because we recently dated, but, you know, I'm
That's
more
logical.
aligned with this. You know what I mean? But people have a hard time
I think that's fair.
speaking their truth.
I think people should tell other people. I think I've just dealt with really stubborn people where you tell them and then they go, remember I told you this in the last,
You did.
that they don't believe me. They were like,
yeah, that's weird.
it's like a weird experience of people because I've always kind of lived in most of my relationships. I became sort of a possession, like something to possess. Not like it wasn't love. It was more of like I made them feel good about themselves, or like I was like something that they needed to possess, but they didn't even like me. He calls it this thing called Save the Queen, which is basically where you create a castle out of any idea you can find to save the idea in your mind. So it doesn't even have to be built on rational thoughts. And then it becomes an obsession. So when you tell people like, hey, I don't really think this is a good idea. I've had people like threaten to kill me or like drive to my house and like threaten my kids. And like, over what? Or just because I wasn't rationally happy in the scenario. There's crazy people out there.
Oh, there are definitely crazy people for sure.
And you don't know when you're going into it that that's what you're going to receive. Like you figure that out later.
Yeah.
You know.
That's the thing. Is there anything, we talked about red flags in the dating episode, but are there red flags when you're dating somebody or in a relationship that you can, like, I think we've all, and when we look back, we're like, oh shit, that was a red flag.
How someone deals with stress.
Which the guy I was recently dating does not handle stress well. Like he shuts down, and I'm a communicator. Like I can talk about it, I can be stressed out, I can handle my stress and your stress, and we can talk about it like adults and try to work through it. So
some people don't want to talk about it at all.
But then what do you say to people? Because I would come back and say this is somebody that, okay, he didn't deal with stress well, but I cared about him enough that I would still want to be with him.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing too, right? That's the compromise. Like, now, do I know that long term? Because it was only 3 months, 2 years down the road, would I have been like, fuck, I can't handle this anymore.
I always look at like, if they can't handle your method of communicating and like what you need, then like they're never, it doesn't get better. It's right. You know, it doesn't get better. Like if they're not good communicators and they run away, then what do you do with that? You know, they're just always going to run away. And then you're going to be chasing them and then resentments. And like, then you're like, I don't want to chase you down just to find out what's going on, you know?
Yeah, and I think, you know, I've gone to counseling, and I mean, she says the same thing, that if they run at the first sign of conflict, they're a runner. Like that, they're just a runner, and it's never going to just get better.
Well,
they're not going to be like, I'm not running anymore, you know, maybe. Like, but for the most part, I mean, you are who you are, so changing, you know, you just have to be with somebody who's...
Well, that's fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
Like they're running, so they're scared. Mm-hmm. But that's something in them, like you can't comfort them into finding a more healthy way of communicating.
Right. So, but I think it's tough when you care about somebody, right? People tend to stay and try to work things out or try to see the best in someone. Mm-hmm. And I think and then there's you romanticize somebody in your mind, right? Especially, I think this happens after the breakup. You know, if you've been broken up with, or, you know, in my recent scenario, like I feel myself romanticizing things that didn't even happen.
Wow.
So,
like, can I have an example? Like, what could have been? Is that what you mean?
Like, not like even, like I'll visualize like having sex, right? And in the way I'm imagining, it never really happened. Like, we never had sex missionary.
Yeah.
But in my mind, when I think about him, I'm thinking about like that kind of like deeply connected lovemaking. Mm-hmm.
You're a dreamer.
I think it is. I'm like in the cloud, like, you know, and I think that's what I wanted from him, you know, But yeah, I'm like, hold on, Megan, that didn't even fucking happen.
It's a cool fantasy.
Yeah, but I think it's because it's what I want to still happen. You know what I mean? I still am working through getting over it. But, you know, I think I would have done better if you just never reached out. Because, you know, we went 45 days.
That whole, what did you call it? You said it was a detox or a...
Yeah, the social media.
Yeah.
And I've not been able, even though I know his Instagram's private now, I still go and look.
Just to see if it's open.
Again. Yeah. And it's sad, but I think, you know, God, like we talked about, I miss the days when there was no social media.
Yeah.
The good thing about the guy who broke up with me, that I was with for 2 years, he's not a social media person. He legit has 4 posts on Instagram, and he's had Instagram for, 8 years.
What a weirdo.
Yeah, he's not a...
So you find yourself going, I wish there was more here. I wish I could find more.
But yeah, I think there's that level of you romanticize, right? And then I think too, you romanticize when you first meet somebody, so you miss the red flags because you're so either enamored or excited. It's fun, right? So you're just like, I'm having fun and all these things. And then once that dies down, that's when you're like, ah, shit.
Like, you're faced with reality.
Right. So that led me to a thought. So somebody asked me why I was having such a hard time. Like, what was it? I was only dating this guy for 3 months. What is it that is so hard to let go of? And I said, we started dating in May. So it was prime pandemic time, right? So we couldn't go anywhere. So we were very comfortable with each other very quickly. Mm-hmm. To the point of we could just sit on the couch and cuddle and watch Netflix. You know what I mean? So we missed that stage of this is fun and exciting. We're going on dates and it's a rush and all this stuff. And we were able to get to the point where after all that's said and done, I was telling my friend this, all that's exciting. Of course you're attracted to somebody in those moments. It's fun. It's the sitting on the couch doing nothing that, you know what I mean?
Can you do that?
Right. Mm-hmm. And we could. So it was we were very comfortable with each other very quickly, and it just seemed natural. Yeah. And to me, that's hard to find. There's no loss of conversation. I thought he was very smart. And I was talking about this last night. I was at a dinner, and I was like, if you don't fuel my mind, you're not going to fuel my vagina. Like, they're interconnected. We should make like a bumper sticker or something.
If you can't feel my mind, you're not going to feel my pussy.
Yeah, right. So, but it's true, right? Like you're probably the same way, like, attracted to intelligence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
my connections are like very emotional.
But I told somebody, and I mentioned this in one of the episodes, if I don't think you're as smart as me or smarter, I'm probably not going to date you.
No, because it's a respect level, and like it's a strange thing. Like I feel the same way. Like having an equal, I can be more. I don't know. It's just different. You can respect one another on a different level. You can be vulnerable on a different level. There isn't like a power play, and sometimes there's power plays. It really depends on the person. Yeah.
So that's why I think for me it is difficult, and
to let go.
Anybody watching that's dealt with the same thing, it's hard to let go of, because when you have been. It's so easy for your friends who aren't single to be like, oh, you'll find somebody else. And it's like, dude, I've been fucking single for 4 years. Mm-hmm. Do you know how hard it is to find a connection like that? It's a stream of date after date after date that doesn't get anywhere.
I really got to a point where I was fully, and it wasn't in any dramatic, childish way. I really thought, I just think I'm too weird and too strange and too eccentric. Mm-hmm. I was like, I am not going to find the connection that actually will make me the happiest that I could be, and everything underneath that is waste of time. So I was like, and I've traveled a lot, and I've met so many people in the world. Like I've been in front of so many different kinds of people, not dating, but just humans. Mm-hmm. And I'd never even seen a glimmer of it. So it was very difficult. And I was like, I understand that like listless feeling. Nobody can like console you through that. That's something, because you're thinking about where you were, where you are, and where you want to be.
Right.
And so you're in a constant state of like, you're by yourself and you want to share moments with people, and you want to it's hard to like have a fulfilling life individually, which you do, but also to leave yourself open for all this other possibilities. It's more complicated and difficult on a single woman, really. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot of people coming at you, and then your emotions going in this way, and then you think like, should I spend my time on this person and invest? And then they pull away, and then you're supposed to take all of that and move it to a different area, and it's very taxing on your life. And it's not as simple and easy as showing up in a certain shirt.
Yeah.
Or understanding that this person is dealing with such complicated interpersonal relationships. And then yourself, you're growing through the whole time, right? So we were talking about earlier, like, you're not the same person you were 4 years ago, let alone probably 6 months ago. So what do you do with all of the information that you've learned in this time frame? It's like every moment is only a moment. So everyone you meet now, everything in the past can't even apply. Because what do you do with all that information? It's just led you here.
Yeah, I think I think you bring up a good point that it is taxing on you. So when somebody says to you, oh, well, fuck him, he's an asshole, get over it. You're mourning somebody else, and you're like, okay, if it were that fucking easy, like, great. And there are people who are able to just kind of roll and keep going. But like I said, I deeply attached to this person, but I think because we spent so much time just hanging out, like, there was a lot more of an emotional attachment going on, at least for me, probably not on him, but
I think it'll take an equal amount of time that you spent in the relationship as it is to
but I've been there.
heal.
But did I reset because I started talking to him again?
Yeah.
And I opened up, and I think that was the thing too. When he reached back out to me, I was like, oh, there's some hope. And that hope kind of never died down, even not looking at his social, not, for 45 days, I didn't talk to him or anything. And, and he told me, I asked him why he reached out at one point, and he said, he really didn't have any reason. He just really wanted to see how I was doing. He told me, he's like, I'm not going in one direction or the other, and I don't want to mislead you. And he's like, but I think of you and I care for you very much. I know, so it's hard. I know. So and I even asked him at one point, well, do you think this could work? And he said, I do think it could work, but I didn't think it was right to say that to you because it's like basically telling you, hang tight. But,
Do you think he's keeping you like on a line?
Could be. I don't know. Because he won't. Now we're back to not responding and whatever because I wanted my closure. I'm just like, you seen someone else? Like, I can handle it. Yes, I'd be heartbroken, but at least I would know doors shut. Like,
closure.
Right.
You can move on.
Right.
And allow yourself to be open to someone else because I don't view you as like the kind of person who wants to have like multiple.
No, and my friend, I've done like dating sites and dating experts and relationship experts, and they do say you should be dating multiple people at the same time until one of them or you decide to be in a monogamous, serious relationship with that person. You should always be still dating and going on dates and talking to other people, but I do have a hard time with that.
Can I tell you my opinion about that? I think that's why we're here, right?
No,
you can't say anything.
We don't want your opinion.
I had this theory because I've always been a serial monogamist, and like I've been single and dated, but when I if you're more than just a hangout buddy or something, then it's different, right? I kind of viewed it as this. This is the metaphor or the analogy that I would give you is that if you're in a room and there's 10 TVs going on at the same time, you can't invest in or know what each of the shows are actually doing. You can't emotionally connect. You're kind of watching all of them at once. And I was like, I feel like it's like kind of like that when you're dating multiple people.
But maybe somebody would say that's the whole point. Don't emotionally invest in one person yet until you know they're the one you want to be with.
Yeah.
I can go both ways, but I'm like you. So when I was on a dating app, and that's how this last guy and I met, and we both decided that we weren't talking to other people. We didn't want to talk to anybody else. But I do find myself, and here's why they say not to do it, because it's harder to get over when you're emotionally attached to one person when you're dating. So the guy I was recently dating, we weren't in a committed relationship. I brought it up. And he basically was like, well, I've never made a decision in 3 months' time, like, about my future. And I'm like, it's not about your future, it's about just, we're not talking to other people, we're not sleeping with other people, we're not dating other people when you're here all the time. So how are we not already in a committed relationship? We don't call each other boyfriend, girlfriend, you know what I mean? So I never referred to him as my boyfriend.
3 months is like enough time for you to know if you want to spend more time with that person, or if you want to not be having sex with other people, or if you do, which is okay. I think it is okay to be having casual relationships with people, but I think if once it goes beyond casual, then it's just complicated.
Yeah.
It's too complicated to have multiple non-casual relationships. Maybe for me, because getting to know people and like investing in them and feeling through their life is a really deep thing. I can do that on a like one person and you can go into the deep end, but if you have many people that you're dating, it's okay to like dip your toe in, but you're not going further than that, because then it's just
right. And I think that's what it is. It's dip the toe in, narrow it down to who is going to stick around, giving you what you want.
Yeah.
Has the so I had to make up this list, this hell yes and hell no list, right? So I have like 5 or 6 of each. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, "Do you have what are you looking for in somebody? What's your hell yes? What's your hell no?" And they're like, "I don't know." Like, if you don't know what you're looking for, how are you ever going to find it?
So I have this tattoo, and it says "fuck yes." So no, really, it says "be present," but it says "fuck yes." And I didn't invent this. I probably stole it from like some place where I saw it. But there was an article that I read, and why I got this is because it said "live a fuck yes life." Basically, don't do anything unless you're like, fuck yes. Same thing you're saying, which is basically a hell yeah. What do I want? Like, if you're like, throw it out. Only do things that are fuck yes.
Well, so, like, for example, my hell yes is, like, smart, funny, ambitious. Not necessarily ambition when you need to make a lot of money, but you need to have drive. Wants marriage, wants kids, right? Hell no, couldn't date a smoker. Would never date somebody who didn't want to get married or have kids. Somebody who's disrespectful to others.
Yeah.
And then, like, laziness, you know. So, like, I know I have these, like, top criteria, right? So this woman was telling me about this guy she's dating. It was at dinner a couple days ago. And she says we have a lot in common. We have great conversation. We go on walks together and talk. And she's like, but he kind of drives a Mercedes that's, like, 19 years old. And he wears this awful corduroy jacket. And that's where I asked her, I'm like, are those deal breakers? Are they your hell no? Because the jacket, like, maybe it's his grandfather's jacket.
Yeah.
That's what my friend had done. And my other friend was like, maybe it's sentimental to him and you have no idea because you haven't asked. But at the end of the day, if you don't like the jacket, you could probably fix that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a make or break.
Yeah.
And then I was saying, one of my good friends a long time ago dated a guy, super wealthy. He drove like a 1998 Toyota Corolla. Like, don't so much judge, right? Yeah. Based on not everybody wants all these extravagant things. They still have a lot of money and not be driving, you know, a Maserati. Like, you know,
not everybody
what I mean?
Cares about that,
right? So that's where the whole conversation came up. You know, okay, you don't like this jacket, but at the core of who this person is, it seems like you get along really well.
Yeah.
He's an attractive guy. I saw a photo of him. She's attracted to him. He's smart. He's funny. He really likes her. Like,
what do you think the differences are? I was thinking about this because I'm listening to you and say like women that are like, oh, his jacket or his car, and like I don't often hear that from people, and I wonder if certain pods of people like breed that mindset, and if it's like professional women or people that have worked hard to get someplace, they expect a certain level of something. Because I was like, it's interesting. I've thought about that. I'm like, I wonder if women are treated different in different communities of people.
I don't know what I mean. I think there are people who like nice things. I like nice things. Does it necessarily matter that somebody else has them? No, because I have my own nice things. Like, yeah. But I think there are women who probably enjoy a man who drives a nice car and wears a suit to work, and you know what I mean, and wants that type of man. And what's funny is I kind of challenged this girl at the table because I met a guy she dated previously, because she was talking about like this guy in his corduroy jacket and his style, and I was like, well, I met the guy you dated last, and he's wearing flip-flops and board shorts and a t-shirt.
That's great.
Like, what's his fucking style? And she's like, oh, I like the surfer type. I'm like,
so she's superficial. Think?
A little bit. I don't think she watches this.
Well, it's okay. I don't think,
but that's okay, right? right? We can't knock anybody. Like, if you want somebody who drives a nice fucking car and makes a lot of money because you want to be supported, she was in a marriage where she was supported as a stay-at-home mom. She was a Pilates instructor. Like,
if you're superficial, though, you have to know that you are. And you're not.
Right. Oh, yeah. You have to own it, right? Like, yeah, I want somebody who makes a lot of money and drives a fucking nice car and can buy me shit. Like, cool. Like, there's your list. Like,
but what do you think about that expectation if it was a female? It's like, oh, I don't like that she wears or drives this. It would be like, fuck you.
You mean if a guy? Or
so if a female was held to that same standard?
Oh, she doesn't dress nice enough or have a nice enough car. I'm sure there are men out there that say that.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw one of the comments on our YouTube channel.
I try to read all
one
of
of my friends, but so the comment where I said, wouldn't a guy want a boss ass bitch? He said, whenever he sees that in a profile, he's like, that means she smokes menthol, she doesn't have a fucking job, like she's an entrepreneur, and he just went off. It was actually quite funny, but.
Boss ass bitch means she smokes menthol cigarettes.
I know, the smoke menthol, that's what stood out for me the most. He's like, she has 4 kids from 4 different men, smokes menthols, has no real job, drives he was very specific. I was like, you obviously encountered this individual.
There are hashtag boss ass bitches, and then there's actually boss ass bitches.
Right. But he's like, I'm sure your profile doesn't actually say boss ass bitch. And I said, no, it doesn't. I said, it goes without saying. I'm sure there are people, I'm sure there are men too that want, I think there's definitely men that like women who dress up.
Yeah.
Like more feminine, wear dresses all the time, have your makeup done.
Nails, toes.
Right. Good arm candy, right? You gotta look good.
Yeah.
So,
I like surprising my husband. Like I
like
wore,
dressing up like
I walk out like a see-through dress on. Like I wore yesterday this gothy like see-through dress all the way down. I walk out, I was like, I'm just wanting to impress him really. And then I just walk around all day with my tits out.
Your lucky husband.
So what do you think? Let's go back to breakups. So what would you say is the top, let's say, 3 things that you should do during a breakup that will mitigate your pain?
So social media. We'll cut off contact. You can't be texting, you can't be talking, right? You need that time to heal. And then on top of that no contact is the no looking up the social media. You're not looking at their profile, you're not trying to see what they're doing. So 2 would be, so I guess that's kind of both no contact, meaning texting, calling, the social media.
Yeah.
And then I think you have to focus on things that make you happy. Doing things that make you happy, keeping yourself occupied, right?
Yes.
It's going out with your friends, if it's something artistic, if it's doing a podcast, if it's making stickers,
painting,
but I think if you don't have anything that you can focus on that makes you happy, then I think that's an issue. You need to then seek those things, because you shouldn't have been relying on somebody else for your happiness.
But we do it inadvertently because we even strong women, like I remember going through a breakup where I don't know what it was, but it really affected my self-worth. And I felt like incredibly worthless, or like I wasn't
good enough,
pretty enough, and I wasn't girly enough, and I wasn't famous enough, and I wasn't all these things. Like there's a long list of like, if I were important, if I were better, if I were this, then I wouldn't be in this situation right now. But really it was just like masochistic. Like that person didn't even really deserve.
Did they tell you those things?
No, never. Nobody. No.
Okay. You just
probably
felt
the opposite.
that way.
Yeah, I felt that because I thought, like, I don't know. It's like a driving force. If I meant anything, how do I, like, if I meant anything to this person, then they wouldn't have been doing this to me,
Well, I think the same way about the guy I recently dated. I mean, for some reason in that time period, I didn't feel good enough to him. Like, because he wasn't giving me physical affection, he wasn't giving me verbal, he wasn't giving me my love language. So I'm like, there's
something wrong with me.
Yeah, but he posted about his ex all the time. Now, granted, they were together a long time and had a child together, but I was just like, well, he clearly can,
have a relationship.
Give verbal affirmation to somebody because he's posting for the world to see, how much he loves this person, and it's,
I just found that was happening for me, and I had to like find my own self-worth outside of any motivation relating to And it wasn't, you take yourself out of the scenario and you're like, would I even want that? Usually in hindsight, we don't. We didn't want that situation, but for some reason it triggered our insecurities because we didn't have control over the situation. That's usually me. Like, it wasn't my choice. So then I'm upset and then I'm mad about not having something that I didn't really even want to begin with, but it was idealized in my head. Any scenario.
I think that's the same situation I'm going through now. I think it was...
Yeah, and then it means more in this fantasy world in your head than it actually was in reality.
Because a lot of times, like, I'll go, and I think that's the thing too, maybe that's the third thing, is when you find yourself, because obviously there was something wrong or something that was off, right? Or you wouldn't have had a breakup.
Yeah.
You know, so whether it was you or them or whatever, you know, when you find yourself romanticizing, right? Like I just talked about earlier, you fantasize about stuff that didn't even happen.
Yeah.
I had to check myself and be like, oh, but remember the time, you know, he made you feel this way? Or remember the time he did this and that really affected you? Or you're really annoyed that he was on his phone all the time and not paying attention? You know what I mean? So it's like...
You have to remember the real things.
Right.
That's a good point, actually, to bring up. Instead of in idealizing people and remembering all the good things, just remind yourself, like, why it wasn't a good fit.
Right.
Like, they were on their phone all the time. They didn't make you feel good about yourself. Not, they would make me feel good about myself if I was better. Because that's language that we use.
Your self-talk.
Your self-talk is so important.
It really is.
And so I went on this like I don't know if I'm not using words. I'm like in the video, it's just sort of like a nosedive into what becomes a poor coping mechanisms. And then you can't connect in relationships until you get past that, because no matter what you're doing, it's all about rectifying that self-worth. So if you're in a relationship now, like you're dating somebody, you're just mad at that person. You're not really being present. You can't.
Which is where I find myself now. And I think that thing too, because I think people tend to jump back into finding somebody, right? Just to help pacify the pain or have that comfort. But I do really think you need that alone processing. Let me truly get over it so that I can be fully open to somebody else, because you're right. I've been guilty of that. Especially currently now, like if I'm on a date and I'm still thinking about this person, I shouldn't be dating.
No.
Because it's not fair to the person sitting across who's taking their time to get to know me, and I'm over here
emotionally
fantasizing about shit that didn't happen. Like,
right.
The person I
You're like, you remember that time?
Yeah. So, or I'm like, God, I really wish I was out to dinner with this guy, the guy I was dating, not this person in front of me.
So I think my person today, I'm thinking of my prior versions of myself. I tell myself, like, then I was like, you know, going through this like warped mindset or this emotional agony, and like in reality I'm like, I just had a poor coping mechanism, and I just needed to like realize that you can heal yourself with your self-talk and like moving past it, because other people can't give you your self-worth, and it's not even that those people's fault. They don't intentionally do that. This is the fucking mind fuck of it. They're not intentionally trying to make you feel bad about yourself, but we do that, and then they're now either crucified or idealized. So those are the two things that those people fall into. One or the other. They're a villain or a savior. They're neither, really, because they're just people. They're just human people that are also have trauma. And remember, it was our trauma has to fit their trauma.
Yeah. So yeah, I think those are all, and you don't even realize what your self-talk is sometimes.
No.
Like I'll be going throughout the day and it's like, damn, I've been really mean to myself today. My self-talk has been awful. Like, you could have been better. If you had handled this situation better, you would have stayed. Like, if you'd done this, you would have, you know. But at the end of the day, and I think people do that, well, had I done this or not done this, but at the end of the day, whether what you did or not, if that person decided it wasn't for them, then it wasn't meant to be. Now, could it be meant to be at some other point? You never know.
Yeah.
But most people, like we talk about, don't go backwards.
No, I don't think I could ever go back into a prior space with someone who was a part of my prior self-life.
But what if you ran into them and you're like, oh, there's some attraction here. Would you be open to it? But now you're new people and you're new. Could you start new? Yeah,
you could if you found that you still had an attraction and an emotional connection to that person as the person you were and the person they were. Unfortunately, people don't grow at the same rate.
Yeah.
Usually.
That's true. All right.
You go past and over the hill.
Right. Yeah. So that's interesting.
So I guess keep going and don't allow your breakups to define your future.
For sure. Yeah. There will always be somebody else. But when people tell me that, I was like, you don't know. Maybe there won't be somebody else.
Maybe there won't be.
Die alone. You know?
You'll have knocks.
Right. Yeah. Well,
life is...
He's like, me? Yes.
never know what's going to happen. It's not promised to us whatsoever. And so we just take every day. And today, we're grateful for the day that we have.
And I think that's something that people need to remind themselves of, right? That, you know, yes, it's painful. Yes, it's going to be hard. But at the end of the day, like, you have a good life, or you're lucky to be here. Like, you know.
You're almost lucky to be going through the breakup, because the alternative is what? Feeling nothing or being dead. Like, I don't want either of those things.
Right. All right, we're going to end on that. So, feeling nothing or being dead, or breakup. So, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. You can follow us on Instagram at FemFables Podcast. You can email us at femfables@gmail.com. So, we will see you guys next time. Thank you.